Welcome to another episode of That Crazy Triangle Guy. We're looking at Bitcoin US dollar index on a weekly time frame. And there are, as you can see, my Bitcoin Magic Channel chart is getting filled up with lines. But ignore all the lines. What we want to look at right now, well, ignore the straight lines. We want to look at these squiggly lines, which are the moving averages. The red is the 200. We are on the weekly time frame. Green is the 100. The white is the 50. And now the blue, light blue, is the 28. The reason it's the 28 is because I'm trying to approximate the 200 daily moving average as much as possible, because I found a relationship between the 200 daily and the 200 weekly. And as you can see here, back in 2015, when the 200 daily and 200 weekly come at their closest to one another and then start separating, is when we see major movement upwards. We see a reversal here as they close upon one another. That was back in 2015. Now, the same goes back here in 2019. We were kind of going sideways for a long time, up and then sideways. Were we doing the same thing here? Yeah, a lot of sideways action. Similar, very similar to what we're doing currently. And then we had that move upwards. Same here, a lot of sideways, did have a move, more sideways, and then we started moving. Of course, we came back down here. And when we did come back down, when these are closest. Anyway, that was COVID, so that's really not a good example there. But here you can see, as we've come back down, now we did cross through here. And when we crossed through, it's really kind of funny because we did cross through prior to the FTX collapse. And then we had that. Now, that was a black swan, or was it? The chart here would kind of make you think that there was some sort of a plan, perhaps. Very interesting that it collapsed just after we had this cross. Anyway, sometimes you wonder if the charts, events happen at key points in the charts, like here in March. Anyway, I won't get into that now. We are looking at the 28-day and the 200 or 20. I'm sorry, 28 weekly and 200 weekly, 200 day and 200 weekly. I guess it could be argued here that this is their closest in a negative value. That's really kind of weird. Anyway, here it's interesting that when we crossed up through the 200, we had a big move downward. Anyway, they are at their closest now, and the 200 daily is curving upwards away from the 200 weekly. That's what I wanted to get to, and we are seeing movement upwards here. So I do expect this movement upwards to continue through here. Now, what are these green triangles? Well, these triangles here, you can see there's two. There's the yellow and green shaded one. It's the yellow one imposed over the green one. Is where I expect us to trade reasonably in this area between subtracting the far upper corner here and this far lower corner down here. Just get out of there. And that's because that would bring us up above the top of the weekly Gaussian channel, and this would bring us below the bottom of the weekly Gaussian channel, or the mean band of the weekly Gaussian channel. So those would be bullish or bearish, but otherwise trading anywhere in this range is just kind of neutral, just kind of still a sideways pattern here for Bitcoin. I wouldn't get too excited about anything outside that range, and that range is anywhere from about 25,000 to 29,000. Or 28 and a half, actually 28 and a half, and yeah, I'd say 25,000. Yes, and the other reason for that is because we don't want to create a lower low, technically, which would be, below 25,000 would be a lower low. So we don't want to do that either. So trading anywhere in this range. Up through, now, do I not have it marked on here? My charts are changing for some reason. I had the 13th. Maybe it's just not showing up on the weekly. Or you know what it's doing? It's probably consolidated right here. Anyway, I had the 13th of, I guess maybe this is it. Looking for a Bitcoin spot ETF approval somewhere here. And it is at the vertex. Sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. Yeah, the apex is the top. The vertex would just be the point of these symmetrical triangles here. Now, I've gone over this in the past, but I'll go over it now. These symmetrical triangles, when I zoom out, look at how tiny this looks. Symmetrical triangles are this orange line here, which hits perfectly our all-time high here, as well as the price action down here. Now, I guess it looks a little bit different on the weekly. If I switch to the daily, these candles, I believe, hit that line. Anyway, you can see that they do travel exactly right along the line here. So this is an area of resistance that we are holding. Now that orange line is also perfectly parallel to these other parallel channels over the long-term history of Bitcoin, which is why everything is exact here. Everything Bitcoin has done over the past 13 years or so has been exact, very symmetrical. Actions are happening over and over and over again. These are all perfectly parallel, and you just can't Um, okay, you know what? While I'm zoomed out here, I added some other lines, some other perfectly parallel channels here to my chart since you've last seen them, and I guess I may as well reveal them now. And those are the parabolic runs. And let me get off of the automatic thing here for a second. And I'll just briefly go over these, but you can see our parabolic move fell within this channel here, which is perfectly parallel to this channel here. And they also have key starting points in our sideways channel. They're key reversals from our bear markets to bull markets, I'll just say. And they encompass all the price action here. Um, and you can see it encompasses all the price action here. I'm not going to really get into it a lot right now, and they are all perfectly parallel to one another. And other than this first one there, well, I shouldn't even say that. It just depends on where I draw those channels. Okay, anyway, so these are perfectly parallel to one another, and contain the parabolic moves from here, and where is the one currently that we are trading in right here. Um, so that is why I made this lavender colored line. That's the direction I believe price action will be heading over the course. Now this is a weekly channel. So this out here is December of 2024 at 260,000, believe it or not. It seems crazy right now to be speaking of that, but I don't know what else to say. It's happened every single time. One, two, three, four. This will be our fourth time. I mean, it's hard not to see what's going on here. Let me turn this guy back on. Anyway, where are we now? When you zoom in, you can see this yellow is the bottom, this green is the center line of our channel, this yellow is the top. So it's a lot. When you zoom in, you see that it does encompass a large area. It's a huge channel. Zoomed out, when you look over the years, looks like a tiny little channel, but it's not. It's this large channel. And actually, we have been, price action usually stays within this bottom portion of the channel. And, I just drew those roughly, real quickly. I haven't really put a lot of analysis into them yet. And it looks like maybe even I can move this one over a tad bit to the left. But I'll have to look at the candles more and analyze exactly where things turn around at. But what I have seen in the past is where the top of this channel is usually at a point where we're seeing movement upwards. I think that's why I placed it there. Same back here. Same back here. 2015, 16. And even the same back here. So I believe that's why. I did place those where I did. Yeah, you can see the price action there along the center line, price action along the bottom, that's in 2020. Price action here along the top, along the center line, and along the bottom here. Price action along the top, along the center line, along the bottom. This is kind of winding through the entire channel back in the original one, whereas the others kind of stay in the lower portion of the channel. So yeah, let's look at this now. Let's get this off. So we do have this movement here. It would make sense that around here with a spot Bitcoin approval or not, whatever the case, that we still move upwards along here. Upwards along here throughout the end of the year. And then possibly, you know what, this all ties in together really well with what I had predicted earlier. These green X's, I predicted us going up to about 58 to 62,000 by the end of the year, back down to 48 for the halving event in April, and then our parabolic run starts in June of 2024. And this is all lining up perfectly. And the reason I've gone over this in videos in the past, this coincides with previous highs back here, and it's happened every cycle. That's where the halving happens. That's our price at the halving. And this was for other reasons that I believed that we would hit here. But I don't want to get into that now. The other, because that's a longer discussion. And this price right here is the top of the weekly Gaussian channel in the previous cycle. And that's where we've always started our parabolic run upwards. So this all makes perfect sense here. This is probably what's going to happen. I can almost guarantee you. We come up along the center line here, come back over, and then back up along here for our parabolic run. So you've seen it here first. I don't think anybody goes over in detail what is going to happen to Bitcoin as much as I do. But for the time being, we are in this little triangle down here. We're in this little triangle here. So what I was saying was that the top of this is perfectly parallel to our channel that is parallel to all our other channels, and the bottom portion of this triangle is our major trend line that goes back years and years and years. Now, why are there so many lines here, these dotted lines? Because this isn't exact. It's a trend line. It's not a like a hard wall. We wind along it. We've traveled along it in the past. We are holding weekly candles on it and wicking below it. And as you look in the past, we traded below it here, but along it. Um, and the other lines that I've drawn, like this orange line here, you know what I like this automatic thing and I hate it, is where we've wicked down to in the past here. Um, and you can see better if we go back all the way back to 2015. COVID came right down and touched the major line and bounced off of it. And if you go back here to 2015 and 16, you can see that we had a lot more interaction with the line, which is this orange and green line, is the major trend line that I'm looking at. And these other ones are areas that we did come down to in the past, and you can see it here. And actually, we did come much lower, and even a wick down here. This is on a weekly time base, but when you look on a daily, I think this is just like one day that it wicked down and up real quickly. I don't know what happened back then. Um, but if you see here, this is why these lines are drawn where they're drawn. Because we've held them as support in these cases. And so this is where we are today. I'd like to see us hold this line, but it's perfectly safe that if we would come down to these lines here, that wouldn't be the end of the world if we did that. However, once again, I believe this is the direction we're going. And I can't tell you exactly when that's going to happen, but I imagine it's going to happen somewhere in here between now and November, or even possibly all the way to the end of November. But I mean, that would be the worst case scenario. More likely in the first few weeks of October, by mid October. And these other lines, as have gone over in the past, we are just hanging. Now I will switch to the daily now, because we're just hanging right here along the bottom of the daily Gaussian channel. That's what those three green lines represent, is the Gaussian channel on the daily time frame. And we broke into it, broke out of it, kind of just hanging along the bottom here. And we're just on the verge of breaking up through here. The blue lines are the 5-day Gaussian channel, the mean band, and the top of that, we're right in the middle. We're trading right in the middle of that currently after falling into it back here in August. And as you know, we've been trading between the top and the mean band of the weekly Gaussian channel for quite some time in this big accumulation here. And that's what's happening. the big boys are playing games with you, and they're manipulating the market to scare you out and sucking up all the coins over the past few months. This has been going on, and it'll eventually come to an end, and this price is going to skyrocket. Um, Now, I did want to get into the DXY, but I really kind of rambled on about Bitcoin. What I have done with DXY is this pink dashed line. I moved it up a little bit. Now, I didn't do that to manipulate it. I did that because it was off a little bit. And as we go back here, uh, let's turn this guy on. Let's the hell are we looking at? I can't, there it goes. This is where we were. It was off a little bit here. And it wasn't quite. So see, now you can see that it's perfect on the daily time frame. It's perfectly touching this upper move here in July of 2021. And prior to that, it had been, well, it was a little bit lower. It was down here or something like that. Maybe, it might have been like right here at the top of this one, which would have made it a bit lower. Anyway, that's where I adjusted it to. So it was a little bit off. That's why it may look a little bit different than previous times. And when I do make moves like that, I will tell you, like I'm doing now, because I don't want to. Everything I do is exact, and I don't change things to fit the charts. So the charts follow my lines to a T. Well, not always to a T, but a lot of times. So the other thing is that, let me get this off of here. As such, I had drawn this parallel channel to match this line, but now you can see we've traveled beyond that. And a little bit beyond our sideways channel here, which is okay. I'm not going to adjust that, but I am going to pull this out here like that. I kind of want this center line to be somewhere. See, when I had it back here, the center line was at least right there between this clump and this clump, right on that little thing there. You know what? Let's just leave it right there for now and see what happens, because we are. That's interesting. I thought that's where it was. Did I have it over here more? Maybe? I don't know where I had it before. Oh, you know what? I think I had it right there. That's where I had it, right there. With this candle and that candle. But it really should be at the top of that candle. Watch the center line. Right about there. Let's zoom in a little bit more. I put it at the bottom of that wick. Yeah. Let's just leave it at. You know what? Let's leave it there. The center line is at the top of this, the close of this day, and at the wick low of the next day. That's the center line right there. And it matches this top. I don't believe the DXY is going to go up. Well, you know what? Maybe. This is pretty close right here to being a turnaround point. So, and it looks like it is heading down. So that's my adjustment, and we've done it live, just so you know what what goes on. Nothing's really being manipulated here to match the price action. It just you see where he made errors in the past and simply need to adjust things. And really, a lot of times, depending on whether you're on the hourly, weekly, or daily, or whatever, the lines kind of tend to move around a little bit because they're connected to certain price points on different time frames. So you may be drawing something on one time frame, and then it looks a little bit different on another one. Um, all right, so that was it. Better get out of here. Like, subscribe. See you next time.